So it looks like Stephanie White is currently trending after this article has been released about her simple rule she gave Caitlin Clark before the start of the 2025 season.
Time a coach actually let their star player be themselves? Well, Indiana Fever's head coach, Stephanie White, just dropped some major hints about her plans with Caitlin Clark. And it's nothing like what we've seen before. Let's talk about what's really going on with the Indiana Fever and their plans for 2025. Phase 3 is literally just a couple days away. As we get ready for the start of free agency, the biggest storyline of the 2025 WNBA season is going to be the Indiana Fever. What type of moves is they going to make for this offseason to make sure they can make a good run at what? The WNBA championship. Head coach Stephanie White just opened up about her vision for Caitlin Clark. And trust me, it's a complete 180 from what we've seen in the past. The approach she's taking isn't just different, it's revolutionary in terms of how superstar players are typically handled in their rookie seasons. I'm going to be talking a little bit about what Stephanie White has said to, what she has said to Caitlin Clark. And well, not to Caitlin Clark, obviously what she said to her, but what she has also said about her and how she thinks Caitlin Clark can lead this team to multiple WNBA championships. And first off, let's address the elephant in the room. This isn't going to be another Christy Sides situation. And if you're wondering why I'm bringing up Sides, well, it's impossible to talk about Clark's future without looking at what didn't work in the past. Remember how Sides tried to completely reshape Clark's game. She wanted to turn one of the most dynamic players in basketball into basically a spot-up shooter. Think about that for a second, taking someone who's revolutionized the game and telling them to stand in the corner. If you guys, again, don't remember with Christy Sides, the first thing Christy Sides did was tell Caitlin Clark, you take too many three-point shots. You need to shoot more long twos. You need to pass the ball quicker. When you have the ball in your hands, you need it out of your hands in 0.5 seconds, either a pass or a shot. She taught Caitlin. Clark was an off-the-ball, spot-up shooting guard, and she taught by people saying Caitlin needs to get more looks. She taught it. The only way she thought she'd get a look to Caitlin who was being denied was via pin downs, not using really Caitlin Clark too much to screen her through pin downs. No Sides approach was like watching someone try to teach an eagle to swim. She wanted Clark to either pass or shoot within half a second of touching the ball. It was like watching someone try to put a Ferrari in first gear only. You've got this incredible machine, this generational talent, and you're limiting everything that makes them special. But here's where Stephanie White comes in with a completely different playbook. Instead of trying to fit Clark into some predetermined system, she's doing something that honestly shouldn't be revolutionary, but somehow is. She's building around Clark's strengths. When White talks about her plans, you can hear the excitement in her voice. She's not just thinking about winning one championship. She's already mapping out how they can win multiple titles, with Clark leading the charge. Let's break down what makes White's approach so different. In her first conversations with Clark, she didn't come in with a list of things that needed to be fixed. Instead, she asked Clark a simple but powerful question. How do you want to improve? That right there tells you everything you need to know about the difference in philosophy. It's not about forcing changes. It's about collaborative growth. Think about what this means for the Fever's future. White understands something fundamental. You don't become great by trying to be someone else. You become great by being the best version of yourself. She's looking at Clark's game and asking, how can we enhance this? Not, how can we change this? It's the difference between polishing a diamond and trying to turn it into something else entirely. The pressure factor is something White seems to understand better than most. She made this incredible comparison between Clark and Taylor Swift in terms of popularity and pressure. And, you know what? She's not wrong. Clark isn't just dealing with on-court expectations. She's dealing with a level of attention that most athletes never experience. The fact that White acknowledges this and sees it as part of her role to help Clark navigate it, that's next-level coaching. White's been pretty candid about her strategy moving forward. She's focusing on efficiency and effectiveness within Clark's natural playing style. Think about what that means. No more trying to turn a point guard into a shooting guard. No more standing in corners. No more artificial limitations. Instead, it's about taking what Clark does best and finding ways to make it even more lethal. The crazy thing is, some people might look at White's approach and think it's too hands-off. But here's the reality. Sometimes the best coaching is knowing when to get out of the way. White's track record shows she knows what she's doing. She took a team that lost major players like J.N. Jones and still got them to the semifinals. That's not luck. That's understanding how to maximize what you have. When White talks about those first few games, especially against teams like the Chicago Sky, you can hear the confidence in her voice. She says we'll know what the Fever is all about in the first 7 or 8 offensive possessions. That's not just talk. That's someone who has a clear vision and knows exactly how to implement it. But here's what really sets White's approach apart. She's not just focused on next season. When she talks about helping Clark develop as a leader, she's thinking long-term. This isn't about making a splash in 2025. This is about building something sustainable. She's looking at Clark not just as a player, but as someone who can help shape the culture of the entire organization. The timing of all this couldn't be better for the Fever. Think about where women's basketball is right now. The game is evolving and Clark has been at the forefront of that evolution. Those logo threes that used to be seen as wild, they're strategic weapons now. Those no-look passes that used to be flashy, they're creating opportunities that defenses can't predict. White seems to understand that trying to contain that creativity would be like trying to hold back the tide. What's particularly interesting is how White talks about the day-to-day aspects of working with Clark. She's not just focused on the basketball side. She's thinking about the whole picture. When she mentions being a resource for Clark, she's talking about everything from handling media pressure to dealing with the expectations that come with being, as she put it, Taylor Swift 2.0. Looking at the broader context, this approach could set a new standard for how teams handle superstar rookies. Too often, we see teams try to force their young stars to conform to existing systems, but White's turning that on its head. She's essentially saying, we've got something special here. Let's build around it. The free agency aspect is going to be fascinating to watch too. With Clark coming in and White's clear vision for the future, the Fever suddenly becomes a much more attractive destination. Players around the league are going to look at this situation and think they're building. If you like the video, then subscribe to the channel fast. Something special there. White's understanding of the moment is crystal clear when she talks about not being able to fully comprehend what Clark goes through on a daily basis. That kind of humility and awareness is rare in coaching. Instead of pretending to have all the answers, she's positioning herself as a guide and resource. Someone who can help Clark navigate the challenges while continuing to grow. This approach also shows a deep understanding of how the game has evolved. Basketball isn't just about X's and O's anymore. It's about managing personalities, dealing with media pressure, handling social media, and balancing all the demands that come with being a modern superstar. White's holistic approach suggests she gets this on a fundamental level. The contrast with Side's approach becomes even starker when you look at the results. Under Sides, we saw Clark's game being constrained, her natural instincts being suppressed. The result? A team that underperformed despite having one of the most talented players in the game. White's approach promises something different. A chance to see Clark's game evolve naturally. To see her talents enhanced rather than restricted. When we look at White's specific comments about developing Clark's leadership abilities, it becomes even more interesting. She's not just looking at Clark as a player who can score or make plays. She's seeing her as someone who can transform an entire franchise. And when you think about it, that's exactly what the Fever needs right now. This whole situation reminds me of how the best coaches in history handled their star players. Think Phil Jackson with Michael Jordan or Greg Popovich with Tim Duncan. They didn't try to fundamentally change who these players were. They helped them become better versions of themselves. That's exactly what White seems to be planning with Clark. The timing of White's comments is particularly interesting because they come at a crucial moment for the WNBA. The league is experiencing unprecedented growth, and Clark is a big part of that story. White seems to understand that she's not just coaching a player. She is helping to shape the future of the league itself. Let's talk about those offensive possessions White mentioned. She said we'll know what the Fever is about in the first 7 or 8 possessions of their first game. That's not just coach speak. That's someone who has a clear vision, and based on her comments, those possessions are likely to showcase Clark's full range of abilities, not just a small subset of them. The relationship between White and Clark is going to be fascinating to watch develop. You've got a coach who's been through the WNBA as both a player and a coach working with a player. who's already changed how people view women's basketball before even playing her first professional game. That's a unique dynamic that could lead to something special. White's emphasis on making Clark more efficient and effective is particularly intriguing. She's not talking about major changes. She's talking about refinements. It's like taking a Ferrari and fine-tuning it, not trying to turn it into a different car altogether. That's the kind of approach that could help Clark take her game to even higher levels. The comparison to Taylor Swift that White made is more profound than it might seem at first glance. Like Swift, Clark isn't just a performer in her field. She's someone who's changing the entire landscape. White's understanding of this suggests she's thinking about Clark's impact both on and off the court. When we look at the potential roster construction around Clark, White's comments become even more significant. She's not just thinking about how to use Clark. She's thinking about how to build a team that can maximize what Clark does best. That's the kind of long-term thinking that builds dynasties, not just successful seasons. The pressure aspect that White talked about is crucial. Clark isn't just dealing with normal rookie pressure. She's dealing with something completely different. She's coming into the league as perhaps the most hyped rookie in WNBA history. White's acknowledgement of this and her plan to help Clark navigate it shows she understands the full scope of the challenge. One thing that stands out in White's comments is her focus on two-way communication. This isn't going to be a situation where the coach just dictates and the player follows. It's going to be a collaborative process with both coach and player working together to achieve something special. The basketball IQ aspect that White mentioned is particularly interesting. She's talking about working with Clark to understand not just what she does, but why she does it. That kind of deep understanding could lead to some incredibly innovative basketball. Think about the potential here. You've got a coach who understands both the X's and O's of the game and the human element of managing a superstar. You've got a player who's already proven she can revolutionize how the game is played. Put those together, and you've got the potential for something truly special. The comment about Taylor Swift potentially attending games isn't just a throwaway line. It speaks to the kind of cultural impact Clark is already having. White seems to understand that managing this level of attention is just as important as managing the basketball aspects. White's approach to helping Clark navigate the daily challenges shows a deep understanding of what it takes to succeed in today's game. It's not just about what happens on the court anymore. It's about managing all the other aspects that come with being a modern sports superstar. Looking ahead to the 2025 season, White's comments suggest we're going to see something different from the Fever. This isn't going to be a team that just runs standard WNBA sets. This is going to be a team that's built to maximize the unique talents of one of the most unique players we've ever seen. The development aspect that White talked about is crucial. She's not just thinking about how to use Clark's current abilities. She's thinking about how to help her develop new ones. That kind of growth mindset could lead to some incredible developments in Clark's game. When you look at the potential impact on the rest of the team, White's approach makes even more sense. By allowing Clark to play her natural game, she's not just helping Clark. She's creating opportunities for everyone else on the team. That's how you build a championship contender. The free agency implications of White's comments are significant too. When potential free agency, a coach who's willing to build around talent rather than try to force talent to conform, that makes the Fever a much more attractive destination. White's understanding of the moment, her willingness to adapt and build around Clark rather than try to change her, could set a new standard for how teams handle superstar rookies. This isn't just about the Fever anymore. This could influence how teams across the league approach player development. If you're as excited as I am to see how this partnership unfolds, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe. Drop a comment below with your predictions for Clark and the Fever's 2025 season. Let's get this conversation going. Thank you so much.